Hi, I'm Daniel Watkins, history professor and part-time home chef. And today I'm here to talk to you about a healthy breakfast. You know, healthy breakfasts always begin with one thing, and that's protein. The protein I like best is bacon. You see, bacon is the best way to start anything that you're... What's that? Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do. It's bacon, a historiographic project. Begin a historiographic project. That's what we're here to do, is begin a historiographic project. That makes a lot more sense. It's bacon project. Doesn't make any sense. I'm gonna put this bacon away. Just, okay.
Listen, you're going to have to get used to terrible dad jokes because they're not going to stop. In reality, what we're going to look at this week is how to begin your historiographic projects. And in this video, what we're going to focus on is how to find and how to determine what a good, viable topic is for your project. Let's start, however, by defining what a historiographic project is and what you'll be doing for the next few weeks.
For the rest of the semester, you're going to be working on a project that explores the historiography of a particular topic. Now, remember our definition of historiography. In one sense, historiography is the history of the historical discipline. That's the definition of historiography that we focused on during the first module of the class. In this module, however, we will primarily focus on the second definition of historiography, the examination of the ways that historians have written about a particular topic. You're going to select a topic of your choosing, this video will help, and you'll have to discover what historians have said about that topic over a certain period of time. That's the basic nature of the historiographic project. So, how do you undertake a historiographic project? Well, you'll be working on this in 3 separate phases, and I want to go over those quickly right now. Phase 1 is research. You'll begin. Stop it. Okay. You'll begin by choosing a topic. Then you'll start to search for academic books and articles and essays on that topic. And eventually you'll get to what I call critical mass, or the point at which you're really not finding too much else. That's when you'll move to phase 2, which is analysis. Phase 2 involves reading all the things you found. And let me assure you, it will be a lot of reading. Like a lot. But you have to do it in order to figure out what historians have said about your topic and determine how they've said it. So when you've completed just about all your reading, you'll move to phase 3. And phase 3 is the writing phase. The writing is pretty straightforward, and I'll detail it more in the future. But for the time being, let me go over the 2 major things that you're going to write, the 2 major projects of this, 2 major assignments of this project. So 3 phases, 2 assignments. You're going to write 2 things. First, you're going to begin with an annotated bibliography. In this assignment, you'll show me that you found a sufficient amount of sources on your topic, and you'll do the initial work of analyzing those sources by way of brief, paragraph-long explanations of the various sources, arguments, methods, and significance. The annotated bibliography is essentially the transition point from phase 2 to phase 3, from analysis to writing. Then comes the big one, the historiographic essay. This is the ultimate product of the entire project. In this 10 to 12 page essay, you're going to break down the historiography of your topic. You're going to identify major historiographical camps, analyze individual sources, and discuss areas for new research. This is the final assignment in the class. It's the tough one, and it's the culmination of all the work you're going to do in this class, really from this point forward. So, 3 phases, 2 assignments, one goal, and that is simply to transform you into a historian. Now, why do a historiographic project? It's simple. This is really your introduction into real history, into the production end of history, not just the consumption end. All historical research projects, all historical research begins with historiographic analyses. It's the starting point for all new contributions to the field of history. So without historiography, you really can't do history in any meaningful way. So it's important that you learn this now so that you can go forward in the rest of your college career and prepare yourself to do even more exciting and challenging things. So, 3, 2, 1. That's the overview of the historiographic project. Now, on to our very first step, figuring out a topic. Okay, the real task is how to figure out a good topic and where to start. Now, wait a second. I'm baking, aren't I?
Okay, seriously. The place to start with all this is moving from an interest to a topic. And that's what we're going to talk about now.
Really, what we need to start with is a bit of a definition of what we mean by an interest and a topic. You'll read more about this in the chapter from Turabian's Manual for Writers of Research Papers, but generally speaking, an interest is, well, just that, something about the past that interests you. This is the stuff of what got you into the history major or the social studies concentration of an education major in the first place, right? Why do you like history? What in history do you like? That's an interest, and it's the starting point for all research. The thing is, students often don't know where to begin. They usually have many interests, and narrowing them down is kind of a challenge. So I like to give students 2 strategies for determining an interest. First, go back and look at the notes that you took from your previous history classes, whether that be, the intro to American history, the intro to world history, U.S. and global perspective, anything. Read through those notes. What pops off the page? Which topics do you remember studying and think to yourself, oh yeah, that was really interesting? Which subjects really captured your attention? Or which subjects did you end up learning a lot about? This is a great place to start because being interested in your topic is really, really important. And more on this later. Second, if you can't find your notes, or if they don't really help you out that much, consider starting with the library's resources. The library lists a bunch of different databases and subject guides to show students what kinds of things they can get access to. In class, I'll show you how to access these databases, but you can sort of explore it a little bit by yourself. Here at Baylor, a nice place to start is just going to the library's website and then clicking on databases and narrowing it to history databases. You'll see a nice list of databases on all sorts of different topics. Explore a little. Check things out. You might find something that catches your eye. But one warning. Don't just choose an interest out of the blue. Make sure it's something you have some experience with or something that you're at least really interested in. You're going to have to do a lot of reading on your topic, whatever it is. I've seen so many students flame out in this process, largely because they just couldn't stand reading about the topic that they chose. You have a choice. Choose something that captivates you. It will keep the momentum going through all the hard work. But what does this process look like? And how is a topic different from an interest? Well, let's take an example. A lot of students that I've had in the past have come to me early in the semester and said, I'm thinking of focusing my historiographic project on World War II. And I usually respond, that's a great interest, but now we need to find you a topic. Confused? Well, you see, the difference between an interest and a topic is really just the level of specificity. Interests can be broad: World War II, military history, women in America, Chinese emperors, colonization, decolonization, etc. But for historiographic projects to be successful, they must be based on an appropriately sized topic. They need to be narrower than just a time and a place, or an event even. So, how do you do this? Well, first, you need to recognize that the main goal is to move from a broad interest to a narrow, viable topic. This process of narrowing is crucial because if you leave your topic too broad, you'll get bogged down in too much research and you'll never get to phases 2 and 3. But how do you hone? Well, again, I have a few strategies. First, try applying narrowing geographic, chronological, and personal frames onto your interest. Again, let's take our example of World War II. A student may start with the interest of World War II, but then I might push them to narrow based on some more sort of personal frames or subject frames. Think of particular actors in World War II. The student might say, hey, what about the British? Great, I'd reply. The British in World War II. Great. Now let's see if we can narrow even more along those lines. What if we didn't just look at the British as a whole, but at British aviators and the Royal Air Force? Now we're getting closer, right? But now what if we applied some geographic and chronological frames? What if we looked at the impact of the RAF specifically on the retreat at Dunkirk? A specific moment in a specific place. Now, this is close to what we would want for a topic. Alternatively, you could just keep going with the narrowing through a personal frame and focusing on one particular RAF commander, like General Bernard Montgomery and his impact on the war. These are both great starting points for research. And you can see sort of strategy one is just to narrow through geographic, chronological, and sort of subject or personal frames. The second strategy for moving from an interest to a topic. Think about applying action words to the interest, and thus not just looking at a person, thing, or event, but the dynamic impact of that person, thing, or event on something else. For example, let's say we made it to British aviators in World War II, but we didn't know where to turn next with our narrowing. How about thinking about the actions of those aviators? For example, how did they contribute to the Allied invasion in 1944? Or what impact did they make on the German economy or the German war effort? Remember that history is a dynamic discipline. It's interested in looking at the how and why things happened in the past. So you might use that as a central way of narrowing your topic. Think about the how and why of your topic. Ultimately, you're going to need to end with a question anyway. More on this in a bit. So this is really the natural progression of a viable historiographic topic. Finally, if you're drawing blanks with all of this, well then consult a tertiary source and pay attention to the subjects and the people and even the modes of organizing your potential interest in that tertiary source. Again, we might think about World War II and just go to like a historical encyclopedia to find an entry on World War II. Hypothetically, it would probably be pretty long, but within this long entry are a host of subtopics that would make sort of solid, viable interests for your historiographic project. For example, you might stumble, when you're reading an encyclopedia article on World War II, you might stumble on a subsection treating the British campaign in North Africa. Or you may see a cross-reference for British espionage during the war. Pay attention to these smaller topics embedded in encyclopedia articles. They'll pave the way for an appropriately sized topic for your project. And last thing, don't start researching until you've gone through this process and narrowed your interest to a topic. If you start research too soon, you will get way too many results, and then you'll be stuck, smothered in thousands and thousands of search results. Take time to narrow and figure out a solid topic first. Then move on to finding sources, which will be the subject of our discussion next week. Ultimately, all of this is going to eventually lead you to a question. This stage of the narrowing comes a little bit later, once you've already found sources and started to read them, but it's worth bringing up now. What will end up being the focus of your historiographic essay will not be a topic per se, but a single question about that topic. How did British aviators assure the success of the Dunkirk retreat? What role did General Montgomery play on British aerial strategy during the war? Why was the British campaign in North Africa an important aspect of the overall Allied success? These are just a few examples. Ultimately, you're going to end up exploring the many answers the historians have given to one single question. But that comes later. For now, focus on a topic. Focus on finding an interest and then narrowing it into a topic.
Great. Now you know how to identify an interest and how to narrow that interest into a viable topic. I want you to get started on that process now, before you get to class this week, because we're going to talk about your topics in class. But before you go, I want to give you a few final caveats and, in fact, a few warnings before you get started.
There are just a few more things that I want you to keep in mind as you begin work on your historiographic projects. First, some disclaimers. First, the process of narrowing from an interest to a topic is not an exact science. You won't get 100% of the way there this week. That's because you won't know if your topic is the right size until you begin doing research. Ultimately, the right size is the amount of sources that you can get through in the time allotted. If there's too much out there, then you need to narrow. If you can't find any sources at all on your topic, well, then you need to broaden. But this is something ultimately that you're going to figure out conclusively once you move into the heart of phase 1, so in the coming weeks. Second, and relatedly, the right size, quote unquote, depends on what it is you're writing. Books can take on topics that are pretty broad. 10 to 12 page historiographic essays, such as the one you're writing for this class, have to be a lot narrower. There is no right size, there's no perfect size for a topic. It's what works for the constraints placed upon you. And again, this becomes clear once you start doing research. In the meantime, you can always bounce your ideas off of me this week. Having done this quite a bit, I can usually have a good guess as to what an appropriately sized topic looks like for a paper like this. If you're unsure, just email me or book an appointment in student hours with me. I'll go over your proposed topic with you and share my thoughts on whether it's too big or too small for our purposes. Finally, remember, and this is really, really important, remember, you will be researching the historiography of your topic and not the history of your topic. In other words, you're not going to be looking at the topic itself, but rather about the things that historians have said about the topic. Keep this in mind because students often struggle with this and find themselves wandering into the realms of history rather than staying in the confines of historiography when they take on these projects. So, don't forget about this. And while I'm at it, let me give you a few warnings about the project and about the process going forward. And if this comes off as a little scary, I apologize, but maybe the scariness can be sort of helpful in motivating you to do the things that you need to do here to be successful. The reality is that this project is really, really challenging. You've probably never done anything like this before, and it's not necessarily an intuitive process. It's important that you consider and you remind yourself about a few things. First, and again, this is a historiographic project, not a historical one. You will not be doing primary source research on your topic. You will not be offering a new interpretation or argument about the topic. You will be focusing on the meta-narrative, the way that historians have written about your topic. Second, don't wait. Don't wait. This project takes a long time. If you try to write your historiographic essay like the history papers you've written in the past, like the weekend before at 2 a.m. and hopped up on espresso shots and Red Bull, you will fail. Let me repeat, you will absolutely, unquestionably, without a doubt, fail this assignment, and likely the class, if you procrastinate with this. That's simply because the assignment asks you to do way too much to pull off in a weekend or even the week before. You have to get started now. You have to work consistently over the course of the next 10 weeks or so. You have to be persistent, or else you're really kind of done for. Third, you must have the entrepreneurial spirit. This is a saying I ripped off my old advisor. What my advisor meant is that you have to be able to motivate yourself to research and to read and to write on your own without waiting to be told to do so. Almost all of this work is going to happen on your own accord and at your timing. I won't be there holding your hand and guiding you through all the many books and articles and essays you're going to need to read. It's up to you. And that means that you have to be disciplined. You have to spend some Friday nights in your room reading or at the library finding sources instead of hanging out with your friends and eating pizza and playing video games. If you can't motivate yourself to work outside of class, then you're doomed. Finally, get ready to read because you're going to have to do a lot of it. The first module of this class was the easy one. Going forward, there's going to be a lot more work, and that work is not going to be coming from me directly. It has to come from you. You have to motivate yourself to read a bunch of books and articles and essays on your topic. And for this reason, I'm going to ask you to do very little for me. The homework going forward is going to be really, really light. But I expect you to be taking the time that you save on homework, and really much, much more than that, and spending it on your historiographic projects each week, every single week, without fail. Again, if you can't motivate yourself to read, then you're just not going to do well on this project.
Right, so that just about does it for this video, and this joke won't die. Okay, I'm done with the jokes, I promise. That's it for this video. What you need to do from this time until class is make sure that you identify a good interest, work on narrowing that interest into a topic, and then bring that topic to class so we can discuss it and move forward with it. Alright, that's it for now. Good job, good luck. bring your notes to class, and see you soon.